Are you lost in the chaotic whirlwind of day-to-day busyness? Do you yearn for a deeper sense of meaning and purpose in your life? Welcome to Be You, Your Story, Your Purpose, the podcast dedicated to empowering women on their journey of self-discovery and finding their true purpose through their own story. I'm your host, Brenda Simmons. Welcome, my friends, to the podcast. I'm so grateful to have you listen with me today. I'm going to start off today by reading a poem to you, and it may be one that you are familiar with, but it is one that I feel is timeless. And so let's start. Gather ye rosebuds while ye may, old time is still a-flying, and this same flower that smiles today, tomorrow will be dying. The glorious lamp of heaven, the sun, the higher he's a-getting, the sooner will his race be run, and nearer he's to setting. The age is best, which is the first, when youth and blood are warmer, but being spent the worse and worst, time still succeed the former. Then be not coy, but use your time, and while ye may go merry, for having lost but once your prime, ye may forever tarry. The title of this poem is called To the Virgins to Make Much of Time by Robert Herrick. And if you have ever seen the movie The Dead Poets Society, this might seem familiar to you. That's where I learned of this poem. And maybe if you are in a literature background or may have heard this before. But Dead Poets Society is where I learned it from. And it's interesting because Robin Williams, I'm going to paint the scene for you. Robin Williams has his group of boys, and they are in the school hallway, and they're looking at the photos of the old students that used to be there that are no longer living. And he has them gather around these old photos, and he's in the back, and he's up there, and he's whispering, "Carpe diem. Seize the day, boys." Can you just hear him doing that? And he tells them, make your lives extraordinary. And as he's telling them this poem, he says, this poem is all about taking advantage of time and not wasting that time and seizing the opportunities that come your way. And I really think that these are related to where he says, make your lives extraordinary. How do we do this? How do you make your lives extraordinary? And I kind of have to pause because I have seen people who say you shouldn't just tell everybody that they're extraordinary and that they have, they can do amazing things. And I think that you have to be careful on how you define that, because the world will tend to define extraordinary as accomplishments and accolades, as adrenaline rush adventures, winning the game of fame and fortune, even on a local, with the local popularity contests, right? I don't think that's what this means. I believe living a life that is extraordinary, yes, everybody can achieve that. I absolutely believe that it is achievable. What makes a life extraordinary is what you do with the opportunities, whether you create them yourself or they come your way, but what you do with them. And in that way, an extraordinary life is unique to that individual, to each one of us. It can be totally unique. And if you really look at it, every situation that you come across comes coupled with an opportunity. And I really want you to think about that. Every situation comes with an opportunity. The questions are, do we see the opportunity and do we seize it? So let's talk about that a little bit. Do we see the opportunity? Sometimes we have to create that opportunity. And so if we see it, it's mostly going to be inside of our brains, what we are visualizing. It is a part of the creation process that we talked about a couple weeks ago. no one else may see the vision that and the opportunity that you're seeing. And in fact, you might have to fight for it because people may not see it themselves. And they may have a really hard time seeing it themselves. So it really requires keeping an abundant mindset. That being said, if you're on the opposite side of that spectrum, don't be somebody else's opportunity killer. And I say this out of experience because I've done this before and I totally regret doing it because I feel like it did not serve the person that I was talking to. It's really important to let the other person figure it out and let them go through that process of really seeing inside their brain, visualizing what the opportunity is and what the possibilities are, because they're probably seeing something that you have no idea the ramifications of it or even how it looks and in its entirety. Other times we have a closed door, we experience a closed door, and all we have to do is see the open window. Now, what I mean by this metaphor is sometimes things will in our lives will totally change and they may not be something that we choose. It may be chosen for us. But remember, in every situation, you have an opportunity. And so I challenge you to look for the open window. Now, what is this going to look like? Well, it might mean a hard left turn, like something that you don't expect at all, or maybe you take your life in a direction that you never thought that you would take. Those are the open windows. And you have to be really observant. You have to put your head up. You have to look around. And I have done this so many times in my life, especially as we have moved cross country several times. And I've had to really go, okay, I wasn't expecting a move or I wasn't expecting, lots, career changes or whatever. But what is amazing to me is as long as I am moving forward, as long as I am progressing forward, then a window always opens. Always. It just happens. The caveat there is that forward movement. If I'm just sitting at home and I'm depressed and I'm wallowing in misery, opportunities don't typically come when you are in that frame of mind. There has to be some work associated with that. And then they always come. Always, always. So there are other times that the opportunity may simply be a shift in perspective. You may not be able to control a situation, but if you can shift the narrative of it, it totally can change the way you look at that and you can see the opportunity there. So for example, I have been coaching a friend of mine and she's trying to link together all of her jobs that she's had in the past, kind of, as you do on a resume, and find the common thread throughout. And she does a great job until she gets this one particular job. And this particular job, she really struggled with. She had a lot of difficulties with upper management. Things weren't run very well. And she associates this job as high stress and misery and a lot of frustration. And so because she has this frame of mind with this job, it is absolutely blocking her from being able to move forward in looking for another job. Like she's totally paralyzed trying to look for this other job. And so I turned to her and I said, I think your problem is just the way in which you frame that situation. And if you reframed that, then you're going to see the good that came out of that job. And you're going to see that common thread through everything that you have done. And it's so interesting when you take a situation that you don't like, that frustrates you, or that makes you angry. And if you just reframe it so that you can see the good that is in that situation, there is a peace and a calm that can come over you when you are dealing with that situation. So again, it's not your typical quote unquote opportunity, but the opportunity is there to change your perspective, to create something that is good out of something that is not ideal. All right. So still other times we just don't see it. Sometimes the opportunity is there, but we're totally blind to it. And this has totally happened to me, and that's okay because that's life. Sometimes we just don't see things. But that is why we have mentors and friends and therapists and loved ones that help us see through our blind spots. And I will forever be grateful for these people in my life who have really helped me to see where I'm missing out on some really key opportunities. All right, now in really key moments, you get a situation where you experience all of these and in the same opportunity. So when we moved here from Missouri, my oldest was a senior, and then my others were eighth grade and seventh grade. And so 12, 8, and 7. And they really struggled. It was a tough time of their lives to move. And they felt like they had this door shut on their childhood, their Missouri upbringing, and they were really struggling finding the windows here in Utah. And I could visualize my kids being active and more engaged with their new surroundings. I could see that, but they really struggled with that, especially right at the beginning. There was a lot of fear involved, a lot of insecurities of, what if I don't fit in, or how am I going to approach, even trying to um, go to a new school, and they ended up going to several new schools. And anyway, it was just a difficult transition for them. So I had to help them reframe their interpretation of their experience here, because it was very much, we hate this here and we hate this at school and we hate and it was all these things. And they would come home, and I'm really mostly talking about my two younger ones. They struggled the most with this, but they would come home and they would sit on the couch and they just watch TV. And I could see them just wallowing. I'm just really struggling to have any kind of enthusiasm. And so I enrolled them in roller derby. And it was such a left turn, and they had no choice. And I went out and I purchased all the equipment for them. And I said, this is what you're going to do. And so that's what that's what they did. And it was so much fun. And they would say, well, why do we have to do this? And I said, because you're not doing anything else. So I'm going to help you find the opportunity here. And so we did it for one season, and it didn't end up being something that they were super passionate about or they pursued it long term, but it was a catalyst to help them to shift their perspective, because they could see that they had something to look forward to, and they could see that there were things in Utah that were fun and that they could explore and have new experiences here. So they're starting to see that open window through having this experience. And they've all acclimated well, and we're all good now. But that was a critical time that they needed to have something, just see a new opportunity and take advantage of that. All right. So remember our questions. You have to see the opportunity, and then you have to seize it. Generally, opportunities come with change, and that can be really challenging because it can make us uncomfortable. It can make us uneasy. We can be nervous or stressed about it. It takes a lot of courage and determination and a lot of trust in the unknown. So and here's the thing, if you know you need to take advantage, if you need to seize an opportunity and you don't, that is when you will start to feel stuck. And you will risk becoming bitter and a victim of your own inability to take a risk. So there's a lot of negative consequences that go on with this. And I'm not going to go into those, But I'm going to let you think about that. What are some of the consequences of not taking a risk? What have you seen in your life? In my life, I have seen this exact thing: bitterness, victimhood, and feeling stuck. And those are really big consequences for not being willing to take advantage of an opportunity that comes your way, especially when you know that's what you should be doing. So really, seizing opportunities is a risk you can't afford not to take. It's a part of life. It's a part of taking responsibility for your life and making sure you are intentionally living your life and trusting that the opportunities that come your way will be just the right ones that you need. So what happens if you have the problem of multiple opportunities at the same time? And I'm not talking about like good versus bad. I'm talking about like, what if you have two really great options and taking one over the other will totally change the course of your life? And so I see this a lot in young adults, and I experienced that as a young adult when you're trying to decide what major to go into, what career you want to go into, um, a, choosing a spouse. There's a lot of really big decisions. I've since experienced similar big decisions, but I see this a lot. There's, when you're a young adult, there's just so many huge life-altering decisions that come all at once. So what do you do? What do you do when you've got a choice between good and good? And so I would recommend that you ask yourself some soul-searching questions, such as, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best, how much joy does each opportunity give me? Do I see myself still down this path in 10 years? What does my gut tell me to do? Sometimes it's really intuitive, and you can trust your feelings in it too. And this takes a lot of practice, right? And so sit down and really digest what are the opportunities associated with each of these choices, and how will those opportunities play out? Will there be other opportunities because of them? And obviously we can't see into the future, but you can play it out in your mind a little bit, and just see, okay, well, I can see that this will lead to that, and that this other one will lead to this and this and this, and where do those paths end up, and what do you feel like the best course is for you? So take the time to really study it out. Okay, one last thing that I want to talk about is the role of gratitude, because this is super pivotal when you are taking advantage of opportunities. Joe Dispenza, he does a lot of research. He's a chiropractor, and he's a doctor of chiropractic. He does a lot of research on meditation and the healing powers of meditation. And he's done a lot of studies with gratitude. And he said, gratitude is the ultimate state of receiving. Isn't that amazing? I'm going to say it again. Gratitude is the ultimate state of receiving. So I interpret that as, if you really want to seize the day, seize your opportunities, you have to first be grateful for them. Even if you don't even know what they are, you can be grateful for opportunities in general. You can be grateful for abundance in your life. You can be grateful for the small opportunities, such as, and this is super small, right? Somebody letting you merge in front of them, right? Or turn in front, like that's just it's so little, but you can be grateful for those opportunities. You can be grateful for the bigger things that happen in your life. And I think it's really important to verbalize it, not just to think it, but to say it and to hear it and to feel it in your throat. When you think it and you see it and you hear it and you say it and you feel it in your heart, that gratitude will expand. And because you are focused on the good things that and the small opportunities and the big opportunities and all the things that you have that you're able to do, it will expand the opportunities that come your way. Because that which you focus on grows. It just does. So take time every day to express your gratitude. And this is something that I've started to do, like in my drive into work. It takes me about a half an hour. And so when I drive in, I don't do any kind of podcasts or music. And I'm a podcast junkie and I love listening to things and engaging my mind. But I tell you what, saying out loud what I'm grateful for is engaging your mind on a whole different level. Like it just puts me to rights, and it helps me to be a little bit more observant. It helps me to process the good versus the good. It helps me to really feel the direction that I need to take in my own life. And so take that time every day to verbally express gratitude. So seize the day, my friends. Make your lives extraordinary. Take advantage of those opportunities. Make them, see them, seize them. And with that, please know that your purpose is in your story. Until next time, take care.
Celebrate your dreams, let them take flight, for you are a star, shining bright in every step you take. Let your